In the vast cold of deep space, humanity had learned one cruel lesson. The stars were not empty. The Ketheri Empire had arrived like a storm. Their warships cut through human fleets as though Earth's proud armies were made of paper. They were faster, stronger, and older. And they had no intention of sharing the galaxy. For 10 long years, humanity fought not for victory, but for survival. Every skirmish was another desperate attempt to hold onto a fraction of the stars. And in the middle of this war, one man's story would change everything. Lieutenant James Carter's fighter screamed across the battlefield, fire trailing from its engines. He gritted his teeth, trying to hold the stick steady as alarms blared around him. "Come on, hold together," he muttered, but the ship was already dying. Outside his canopy, space was chaos. Human destroyers burned like torches, their hulls ripped apart by Ketheri plasma lances. Alien interceptors darted in impossible arcs, hunting down Earth's last squadrons. James had been chasing one of those interceptors when the sky exploded. A blast ripped across his left wing, spinning him into the void. The control panel shattered in sparks, filling the cockpit with smoke. His last memory before blacking out was the distant sight of Earth's flag retreating into darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer in space. James lay on a rough stone surface, the air heavy and damp. A faint glow illuminated the cavern around him, cast by crystals embedded in the walls. His helmet was gone. His wounds had been bandaged with strange cloth that shimmered like silk. And then he saw her. Standing at the edge of the light was a figure unlike anything he'd seen before. She was tall, graceful, her skin a pale violet that shimmered in the glow. Her armor seemed alive, fused with her body in organic patterns. Lines of faint silver traced across her arms like tattoos that pulsed with light. Her hair, long and white, caught the crystal glow and turned it into a halo. But her eyes were silver fire, unblinking, sharp, and dangerous. She studied him like a predator deciding whether to finish its prey. James pushed himself up with a groan. Pain shot through his chest, but he forced a smirk anyway. "Guess I'm not dead." Her voice was soft, musical, but filled with suspicion. "You should be." The words chilled him more than the damp air. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Enemy. Human. Alien. Survivor. Captor. Finally, she moved closer, kneeling beside him. She reached out, not with a weapon, but with her hand. Her touch was cold against his forehead, checking his fever. James stared at her, confused. Why save me?" Her eyes flickered, as though even she didn't know the answer. "Because you fought to live. Few do, against us." Days passed in that cavern. James discovered they were on a remote planet, far from the main battle lines. Lyra, the alien girl, as she finally told him her name, had dragged him from the wreckage when his fighter crashed. She tended his wounds with alien medicine, fed him from rations he couldn't recognize, and watched him like a hawk every moment. She was no ordinary soldier. Her armor bore the insignia of the Ketheri Vanguard, the elite, the most loyal servants of the Empire. And yet, she had not killed him. One evening, while the crystals glowed dimly, James noticed something strange. Every hour, a faint pulse of light blinked from a device on her wrist. A transmitter. He frowned. "That thing, you're signaling someone, aren't you?" Her silver eyes narrowed. "It calls my people. My rescue." James' stomach twisted. That meant only one thing: if her people came, his life was over. He forced a weak laugh. "So, what then? You save me, patch me up, just to hand me over when they arrive." For the first time, he thought he saw doubt flicker across her face. In the days that followed, their uneasy bond grew. James asked questions, small ones at first. About her world, about the Ketheri, about why they hated humans so deeply. At first, she ignored him. But slowly, as the silence stretched too heavy, she began to answer. He learned that the Ketheri believed humanity was reckless, dangerous, spreading too fast among the stars without control. To them, humans were a wildfire that needed to be contained before it consumed the galaxy. "You see yourselves as pioneers," Lyra said one night, her gaze distant. "We see you as invaders." James shook his head, frustration in his voice. "We never wanted a war. We just wanted to survive, to explore." Her eyes softened slightly. "That is what makes you dangerous. You never stop, even when the stars tell you no." And yet, despite her words, she kept feeding him, kept treating his wounds, kept listening when he spoke of Earth, of the oceans, the forests, the cities full of lights. She had never seen Earth. She admitted she had never even stepped on a human world. "To me, your home is only a name," she whispered. "But the way you speak of it, I almost see it." It was during those long hours that James realized something terrifying. She wasn't his captor. Not anymore. She was his only ally. And maybe, though neither dared admit it, something more. But the transmitter never stopped pulsing. Stronger each day. Louder. A beacon calling the Empire closer. James finally confronted her. His voice was sharp, desperate. "You know what will happen when they come. They'll kill me. And they'll question you for saving me. You think they'll forgive that?" Her jaw tightened. She didn't answer. He took a step closer, pain burning through his chest, but his eyes locked on hers. "Lyra, you have to choose. Them or me." For the first time since they met, she looked away. Her silence was louder than any words. Above them, the night sky burned with distant engines. Ketheri's ships were drawing near. The beacon's call had been heard. And James Carter knew his time was running out. The skies above the cavern burned with light. James could see them from the cracks in the stone ceiling, streaks of fire cutting through the night as Ketheri's ships descended toward the planet. Rescue for Lyra. Death for him. James staggered to his feet, clutching his ribs. Every movement hurt, but pain was nothing compared to the storm inside him. He turned to her. "This is it. Your people are coming. If they find me alive." His voice cracked. "You'll lose everything." Lyra stood at the mouth of the cave, her silhouette glowing against the silver light of her armor. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her hand clenched the transmitter on her wrist, the tiny beacon still pulsing like a heartbeat. "Finally," she whispered. "You don't understand. If I return without you, they'll know. They will see through me. My loyalty will be questioned. My family dishonored. My life." She stopped, her voice trembling for the first time. "My life will be over." James stared at her, his chest tightening. "Then why save me at all? Why not let me die out there like the others?" Her eyes snapped to his, silver fire burning with something fierce. "Because when I found you, broken, bleeding, you still fought to breathe. Even in your last moments, you did not surrender. I wanted to see what gave you that strength." Her voice dropped, softer, almost fragile. "And now, I cannot let it go." For hours, the cave was filled with silence broken only by the distant hum of ships combing the skies. James knew that Ketheri would find them soon. The beacon was too strong to ignore. But instead of preparing to leave, Lyra sat across from him, her silver eyes fixed on the faint glow of the crystals. "Tell me about your home," she said quietly. James blinked at her. "My home?" She nodded. "Earth. The oceans. The forests you spoke of." So he told her. He spoke of waves crashing against sandy shores, of mountains capped with snow that glittered under the sun, of cities alive with music and lights. He told her of laughter, of children running through streets, of skies filled not with warships, but with birds. As he spoke, her eyes softened, her posture shifting from soldier to something more human. "Your words paint pictures," she whispered. "I almost see it, almost feel it." James smiled faintly. "Maybe one day, you'll see it for real. If this war ever ends." Her gaze lingered on him. "If it ends," she hesitated. "Would I be welcome there?" James' answer was immediate. "With me, you would be." Her lips parted, as though she wanted to speak, but the distant roar of engines cut her off. The search was closing in. By dawn, the first patrols had reached the valley. James and Lyra could hear them outside, the metallic clank of armor, the alien voices barking commands. James' heart raced. "They're here. Lyra, you have to decide now." Her hand trembled over the transmitter. The beacon blinked faster, as if demanding her loyalty. She looked at him, her voice shaking. "If I destroy this, they will hunt me as a traitor. My life will no longer be mine." James stepped closer, his hazel eyes locked on hers. "Then maybe it's time to live for yourself, not for them." For a long moment, the cave seemed to hold its breath. And then she pressed the transmitter into his hand. "Destroy it," she whispered. James stared at her in shock. "Lyra." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Please." "I cannot." The beacon cracked, sparks spilling across the stone floor. Its light died with a hiss. Above, the sky lit with confusion. The ship circled, searching for the signal that no longer existed. But the beacon's call was gone. Lyra exhaled, her body trembling as though a chain had broken inside her. James looked at her, his voice rough. "You just chose me over everything." Her lips curved into the faintest, trembling smile. "Maybe I was never theirs to begin with." But the danger wasn't over. The patrols had already closed in. Without the beacon, they would search on foot. And when they found a human alive beside a vanguard soldier, no explanation would save either of them. Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him deeper into the cavern. "We must move. Now." They ran through tunnels lit by crystal light, their footsteps echoing in the silence. James stumbled, his wounds slowing him, but Lyra never let go of his hand. Every shadow seemed alive with threat. Every sound echoed like a predator's breath. And yet, together, they kept moving. At last, they reached an opening that overlooked the valley. From here, James could see the Kethri ships circling like vultures, their lights piercing the dawn. Lyra's grip tightened on his hand. "If they find us, I will fight. With you." James turned to her, stunned. "Fight your own people?" Her silver eyes blazed with certainty. "I no longer know who they are. But I know who you are. That is enough." For a moment, silence held between them. And in that silence, the impossible became real. He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Lyra, thank you." Her reply was not words, but a look, a promise, silent and unshakable. The ships above thundered, but the cave was filled only with the sound of their breathing. James Carter, the human soldier, and Lyra, the alien vanguard, stood together at the edge of the world. Enemies by birth, allies by choice, something more by fate. The war still raged beyond them. The galaxy was still burning. But in that single moment, they had carved out something new, something worth defying empires for. A silent promise. And so, her last signal was not the beacon that called an empire. It was the heartbeat of two souls, once divided by war, now bound by choice. In the silence after the signal died, a new story began.
Like and subscribe.